Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ania Ostrowska and I'm a digital coordinator for Screening Rights, a small social justice film festival happening this year in 2 weeks from the 22nd to 25th of October, all online. One of the films we are showing this year is To See You Again. And I am very honored today to be joined by two of the makers of the film. And I will interview them now. And this interview is in my capacity, not as much as a coordinator of the Screening Rights Film Festival, but as a film journalist for the F Word, British feminist blog. So this interview will be shared on the F Word ahead of our screening in 2 weeks. So more people will hopefully get interested and come and watch the film online. So first, maybe I would like you guys to briefly introduce yourself. So take turns and introduce yourself and tell us what role you played on the film, okay?
Okay. I am Carolina Corral and I am the director of Volverte a Ver and Merlina.
Hi, I'm Merle Ilina, and I'm the impact producer of the movie.
And we have also Magali Rocha, who is producer, and she cannot be here with us.
So Magali might be joining us later, but if not, there's another person here. So it's Magali who was a producer. So I rewatched the film yesterday and I was thinking, when you watch a feature documentary that is so well edited and accomplished, it's sometimes difficult to imagine the very beginnings. But Carolina, can you briefly tell us, how did you start making this film? How did you embark on this project? What pushed you to making the film, which we now can watch?
Yeah, the very beginning was even a bit messy because I didn't know what I was gonna encounter. I wasn't expecting such a enormous reality, atrocious. I live very near the site where the mass grave from the government was found, which is what the film is about. I heard in the news there was a mother that whose son had been um, buried by the government without her permission and without her knowing. So that was atrocious for me. And then I realized it wasn't only his son, but they were pulling out hundreds of bodies out of the earth that the government didn't tell us they were there. So I was drawn by telling that story because I was shocked. It was occurring so close to my home, and like we weren't doing anything. So I went with my camera and my van and started recording to make a short film for my collective. When I was there, I realized how such a big story was happening there, and I also met the mothers, the protagonists there, and I realized how beautiful of a collective it was, of them organized, of them united by the pain of not having their daughters at home because they are missing, and how they obliged the government to open that pit and to reclaim the bodies. So I realized there was a film there, but it took me a little time to realize how to tell it. I was just recording kind of a little bit of everything, and then I realized they were the spinal cord of how to tell the story, and that's where we started.
Great, thank you so much. Merle, can you now tell us at which point did you join the project, and how did you start working with Carolina on this one?
Yes, I joined the project more than a year before because I also was the impact producer for another Mexican documentary called Armed to the Teeth, because I was an activist with the group that supported the families of that execution by the military. So I had some background as an impact producer, and then I just met Carolina because of random coincidence, and I was finishing my thesis from the master's degree about the mothers who search, but in Nuevo León, in another state of Mexico. So Carolina and I immediately started talking about why are mothers, why are women, why are sisters who continuously are searching for their missing loved ones. So we started having that discussion, and some weeks later, they started looking for someone who helped them to make this impact campaign that that they wanted to launch with the movie. And it was like a natural decision because of destiny. I sometimes think that. So I had involvement with groups of mothers searching for their missing children in the north of Mexico, and I was very happy to enter to this project and start collaborating also with the mothers of Morelos, who are the protagonists of this movie and who are very, very special people. So I think the team, it's practically all female. We have, of course, also male collaborators, but the project has a very, I think, empowering spirit, no, around women. So this was my way into this project.
Thank you so much, Merle. So you had experience already, you Impact produced a film about similar issues. And Carolina, what about you? Did you, because I understand that you made some short films before this feature, right? So were your short films also around the issues about the disappeared, or were your films about something else, your previous short films?
My previous short films are about two are about women in prison, and they're about this feminist collective that teaches feminist studies in prison and teaches them how to write. So it's about that feminist writing in prison by prisoners. And two other are about the town where I live and the defense, the territorial defense they hold against a golf course, for example, and the communal organization they have. It's like an indigenous background town, and they have a lot of resistance movement. So it's about that as well, kind of activist project. And I've been involved with the topic of disappearance more than 10 years ago when the war on drugs started, this huge movement for peace. The movement for peace and dignity started also near where I live because of the when they murdered the son of a famous poet. He started a big movement to end the war on drugs, and that's where I started. Yeah, meeting and with families that have people missing in this war.
Great. So please also tell me, was the transition from a short film to making a feature difficult? And also, how many years did this journey take? So what we see now, over how many years was the footage shot?
It's been 5 years since we started telling this story, and it went through 2 editing cuts. It was difficult, also because my background is not film studies. I studied anthropology, and then I studied visual anthropology in Manchester actually. And then I went into documentary kind of in an instinctive way, but I'm not a filmmaker from studies. So in that sense, our editor, Pedro Garcia, who also edited the film that Merle worked before, he played a big role in the script as well. We share a script because he helped us a lot with the structure and with and with the way the film is told. So it's been a film that is not made only by a director, as all the films. It's a lot of teamwork in this film. So thanks to that, it came it came to a beautiful end.
Great, Merle, you keep nodding your head. Would you like to add something about the collaboration also on making the film? How was it for you 5 years on this journey?
I joined like a year and a half before this, but I was just thinking that many of the people involved have backgrounds as activists. For instance, also the producer, the director, myself, and I was also thinking about the talents that joined to make the movie. Also, for instance, I think the music is something very important for this movie, and it was a very talented compositor who is also blind, and she watched the movie from other senses to create that music. So it's like a teamwork, as Carolina said, because a lot of people added their talents to create this piece that I think it touches the heart.
So maybe we should talk a bit about the context for non-Mexican audiences, right? Because I think lots of people in the UK, I'm sure, will know about the war on drugs. But I think your film is interesting in the way, as you also mentioned in other interviews, that you are showing in your film very powerfully that it's not just the drug lords and the gangsters burying the bodies, but also the local government is complicit in this, right? So this is like a very big deal. But I was wondering, as someone who doesn't know the Mexican context very well, I was really surprised that lots of the disappeared people that the women in your film are looking for, they are women, including very young women. So I was a bit surprised because, you know, when you think about war on drugs, I would expect mostly young men to be killed, right? So can you talk a bit about what are the reasons for so many young women being found in these graves and so many young women being missing in Mexico?
I think the war on drugs title has always only been a title and an excuse of this war, which is beyond drugs. A lot of, yeah, it's been many years that it's not about drugs. It's about a lot of different kind of organized crime, including extortion and including women trafficking. There's a big industry of women trafficking in the world, which Mexico collaborates to. A lot of these women are going into that women trafficking organization. So that is why there's a lot of 16-year-old girls, 20-year-old girls missing. And there is also the rates of feminicides in this country are very, very, very high. So that's also a problem where men feel they can just kill you if they get angry at you. So that's also part of what's happening. That's very clearly what happened to one of the daughters of a protagonist of the protagonist. He just disappeared her, and that is a problem that is increasing as well in Mexico, probably in Latin America as well. So it doesn't have to do with the war on drugs all the time or with organized crime, like as the media says, like you think of dead people in Mexico and you believe they're involved in organized crime, and that's not what's happening. It's a lot more complex, and there is women trafficking involved. That is a bit of the context. I don't know if Merle wants to say
That's very helpful, and I think it will be very helpful also for the audiences here to know that. Merle, did you have similar experience on the previous project you were working on about this? As Carolina said, this two different areas actually of of crime and not just war on drugs. Was it similar on the previous project?
Yes, because in Armed to the Teeth, it was the military who did like executed two students from my school where I was studying back there. So we see that the war on drugs is not just about the state against the organized crime, but they are the same, and they are sometimes together against the civil population. And when these kind of crimes happen, the state always tries to cover them. So these pits, these mass graves, also help to cover up some of the things done jointly by the organized crime and the government. It's a very complex situation, but yes, we have that. We have like a saying here in Mexico about some cases like Ayotzinapa that was very very well known around the world, where 43 students disappeared here in Mexico, and some of the things, the consigna we say, like the themes, it was the state. So we have to point the state responsibility, and we are also doing this in this film, in To See You Again.
In that sense, I may add just a little thing that we have 72,000 disappeared people in Mexico since the war started more than 10 years ago. And recent research of colleagues, journalist colleagues, they found that around 30,000 people are in state graves, in official graves. We could say it from that half of the people, of the disappeared people, are in the state's graves. So it's not only something that happens where I live, as the film depicts, but it's something that is happening all in Mexico. Like all the mass graves should be open because there is disappeared people in them, and there's a lot of them in there.
Whoa, that's horrendous. So let's talk about the film itself now. So you are showing lots of in the film. What I think is great, you are showing lots of stories. So you have lots of the scenes where people just tell their stories of their families, of their disappeared children or siblings. But you have definitely, there are like these three main characters, three main protagonists, the women who really taught themselves the forensic science and are sitting at the table and talking about, you know, what they've discovered and all the going through all the documents. So can you tell us shortly, how did you end up featuring them mainly in the film, and how was your journey as a director to like focus on them, on these three women?
Yeah, in the mass grave, it was 2 weeks of exhumation approximately, and they are the ones. The protagonists are part of a collective which is very tight and very organized in Morelos, and they have been looking for their daughters and their disappeared for years now, and they were kind of the ones that pushed to open the grave, and they're there all the time. There was also a lot of other families that were drawn by the news that the pit was being opened, and they appear in the mass grave in the site for 1 or 2 days. So there is these fleeting characters that just go for there for one day, that have never been with other collectives, that are new into collectivity, and they are being welcomed by Regresando a Casa Morelos, by the collective, by the protagonist. So this is the moms that have a little bit more experience, that have learned a lot together, that are together, and there's the other kind of new family members appearing for the first time. So that was kind of the idea, the ones that just come and visit, um, meet other relatives, and probably start to join collectives there. Um, yeah, so there, and it was also the idea to um, recreate this sense of days passing in the mass graves, and people just appearing once or staying there for a few more days, all these, like, yeah, fleeting days.
I think it works really well. I think it's exactly as you're saying, that you have these three women that will return to all the time. So they're like this backbone. And then, as you said, these episodes of people just coming and going. But yeah, altogether it adds up to like these many voices talking about these horrible crimes. So shall we talk now a bit about what's going on in Mexico in terms of the release of your film? Because I know that we just talked about it before briefly. So you said that the film opened for online streaming yesterday in Mexico, yeah, and there will be some more events. So can you tell me a bit about the impact campaign you've done so far in Mexico, and what is gonna happen? What events have you got planned? And what are you hoping to achieve in Mexico, most importantly, with these screenings?
Merle?
Mhm. So, yes, this movie was launched with an impact campaign. We have like an international part, which you can help us a lot in your festival, of spreading the word and raising awareness on human rights issues in Mexico, and particularly about the disappearances in Mexico. But we also want to help the groups, the social movements here in Mexico through this film, and we want to raise awareness and contribute to the discussion about the forensic crisis that we are living, and that other countries can help us to pressure. And finally, we want to impact or to insight in a in the very specific issue of the mass graves of Morelos, the state where the movie was filmed. And for that, we are demanding, all together with Regresando a Casa Morelos, the collective of protagonists of searching mothers, they are demanding the identification of all the people that was pulled out of the mass grave 3 years ago, because after these 3 years, no institution has given results of DNA tests, so we don't know who they are, and they have not returned home. So this is one of the main goals, and the other goal is to reopen the pit to finish the work that was started 3 years ago, because there are a lot of people that still remain in the grave. And for this, we are using the opportunities of all the festivals, screenings that we can get. For instance, we are now premiering in Mexico, and we launched this campaign actually this week in DocsMX, which is the Mexico City's documentary festival, and it will go online from October 8th to October 25. We are doing a strategy all together with NGOs who supported us to buy tickets for victims and for families, family search groups, so they can watch the movie through the festival. And we also, based on the findings of the mothers, maybe Carolina can explain a little more about this database that we are using. But during the exhumations, the family members created a database, an independent one, with all the information from tattoos and clothing and every detail that they could get from the people that was pulled out. And now we are releasing this information because the state has never done so, both as a database, but also as a series of postcards that I want to show you. But first, I want to Carolina to tell you about this database, about the work that the mothers and the search groups did documenting all this information and why it is important.
Well, it's as you said, as Merle said, during these 2 weeks, and that appears in the documentary, because mothers weren't allowed to introduce a camera, an independent camera, they started making drawings of the bodies, of their bones, of their clothes, of their tattoos, in a very tender and loving way, not technical, not just forensic, with their mother's view and with their love. And as Merle said, like this database now is the only one that the citizenship counts on, because the government hasn't given the results of the bodies they exhumed. So we thought it was a good idea to put it out there, and maybe it could be a way that somebody could identify someone by their clothes, by their tattoos. So in a very respectful way, without putting up information, private information, we put like the sensitive information, the clothes and the marks. Merle is showing one of them. So that's part of the campaign. This information, these drawings that the mother said, we're putting them online. Also, Merle is wearing a face mask, which is part of the campaign, and it says "Donde están?" and it's "Where are they?" This is a big cry and slogan of Latin American movements of mothers that are looking for the people that have gone missing. That's another part of the, like, there's online things happening, and there's also face masks happening, and hopefully face-to-face presentation soon.
So people who want to support you, can we buy these masks online? And do you will they be sent to the UK, for example, or no?
Actually, we are donating them here in Mexico to different groups, allies, but we can coordinate a sending to the UK if you want, so we can make
you
it
just
happen.
gave us a good idea.
I think it's a very powerful statement, especially now that we all need to wear masks all the time, and we need to have more than one. So I think it's a very good way of spreading the word. Yeah, it's a very powerful image with the mask. Yeah, I think it's great. Okay, I want to ask you something, because the more I thought about it, I'm thinking, it seems to me that what you're doing and your film is actually can potentially put you in some danger. I don't know. So I was wondering, are you a bit worried about your safety? And what was the reaction from the press, and also, I don't know, maybe from authorities to the film, to your film? And I don't know, maybe there were projects like this before. Can you talk a bit about this? Because again, I don't know Mexican context, but it seems to me that these politicians will not be very happy with this film being distributed, right?
Yeah, totally. I think we have to go step by step, seeing what the reactions are. I was very on the cover when filming, so wasn't that much at risk. We received a couple of calls, which we are not sure if how real threats they are, but we are taking care of ourselves and of the mothers. The mothers are also just out there struggling. I do have to say that it kind of gave us confidence that in our state, at least, they weren't murdering journalists, as for example they were doing in Veracruz, who like 17 journalists died in the time of Duarte's governor. So like, yeah, measuring the temperature, we kind of still navigated in Morelos without too much danger. Now it's another step. Now the film is finished, we're going out there and we will see what happens. Now we do have to say that the authorities, the party changed in the last election, so the authorities that are now in power are not the ones that committed those crimes. So they have a bit more of an easy task, which is to solve it, to identify the corpse and give them back. So they have an easy task. The authorities that buried the bodies went off really quickly after the news came out, and they're occupying other jobs in the government somewhere else. So I think from them we have to watch out what their reactions may be.
Merle, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, actually, we already started screening the movie to the authorities. We had in September a screening special for the mayor of Jojutla, of the town where is the mass grave documented in the city. And a lot of them, as they come from a new party, are not that involved in what happened, or they don't know what a lot of that. So we have a positive reaction from the local government, but still we have to to vigilate that they do their work. But from the state authorities, which are the most responsible, we didn't have like a good reception, because we organized a screening for them, but 1 hour before the screening, the attorney general, which is the one who buried the bodies some years ago, the institution that buried all that bodies, they canceled 1 hour before the screening. So we have the presence of other state authorities like human rights, like the commissioner for victims, but the ones with the hard power, let's say, they didn't want to watch the movie. And it is because some of them are still involved, or they were left there from the past government, from the government that digged all the graves and that buried the people. So some authorities have connections from the attorney general, and they didn't want to watch the movie. We are hoping to make a lot of noise and to oblige them later, to try to arrange a new screening later and try to get them on board. But the ones who are also constantly facing them and demanding them all of this are the mothers, which every Monday they have a protest in front of the government building, the main government building in the main square in Cuernavaca, and they are protesting for their daughters and also for all these people that was pulled from the mass grave and they were never identified. So we have to make more sensible our authorities, and we are also planning screenings with the highest level authorities in Mexico from human rights.
Thank you so much. I think what you're doing is very, very brave, but you definitely should be careful. And I'm happy that you're saying that you think about it, because as I said, I think it's a very dangerous, sometimes being a documentary filmmaker is a very dangerous job, especially if you're tackling the issues you guys are tackling. Well, so fingers crossed for as much noise as you can possibly make in Mexico and for as much impact as you can do. And we will for sure see you in 2 weeks for our panel, for the screening rights panel. Are you thinking already about your next campaign or project, or at this point are you still really into this one and you're not thinking ahead?
Yeah, I think we're fully immersed into this one, and it's, yeah. Like Merle is having a lot of ideas of impact stuff, and working very closely with the mothers, and yeah, and all the activities in Morelos.
Yeah, it does seem you have a lot on your plate, and it's like an amazing work you do. Well, thanks so much for today. I won't be keeping you much longer because you have a busy day ahead of you. as I said, we'll see you for the screening rights panel, and then we will also be joined by some of your protagonists, right? So we will hear from them as well. Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
Would you like to add anything, Merle or Carolina?
Yes, I just wanted to add that if you want to check the campaign or more information about the movie, you can do it in the webpage Amate Films Volverte a Ver, and I actually want to share the screen just for a little so you can take a look. So, this is the webpage about the movie and the impact campaign. It is in Spanish, but you can translate it to English with Google.
Yeah, we
And
talked. Yeah, exactly. We talked about it for the UK. For the UK audiences, there should be a small button in the URL field, and you can easily toggle it to English. Yeah, but this is also, yeah, there's lots of images. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
mhm.
And I
So you
think,
can help us share from the UK the information in these postcards so they can travel a lot and maybe hopefully could guide to them returning home at some point, right? So you can also follow us on social media. In Twitter, we are Volverte a Ver Doc, and in Facebook, Volverte a Ver Documental. And that was it.
And I
great.
just want to thank you a lot for giving voice to the protagonists and to our film.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome. As I said, guys, the work you're doing is amazing and so important. And as I said, dangerous. So, of course, we're very happy to be able to spread the news. Great. So, see you in 2 weeks.